right, what is going on, guys? It is time for another episode of the Chasing Waypoints podcast, episode number 75. Ooh, we're getting close to 25 more. The countdown has begun. All right, well, we're almost there. It is officially summer. At least that's how it feels like here in San Diego. But, you know, it is what it is. Riding season, a little warmer. I'm glad I usually wear the vented gear. And actually, we're going to be talking to the guys over at Moskomoto soon here about some apparel. Because, well, they make some pretty badass stuff. And I am definitely curious to learn more about it. I do know that they operate more on a layering type system rather than, you know, all-inclusive, you know, the jacket with everything in it, with the works. So I definitely want to find some more out about that. But let's see here. Okay, today's episode, we are in the Bivouac with Chris Tavenner. I'm going to be talking to him. Got a chance to meet up with him. Apparently a long-time listener, first-time caller kind of deal. Got to meet him at the Baja Rally, American Rally Originals San Quintin training. So definitely excited to talk to him a little bit about his rally experience and trainings and things that he has done thus far. So looking forward to that. But before we get started on that, let's talk some rally news and what we have got going on. It is going to be Sunday when you guys hear this. It's actually Monday, Tuesday. I don't know, 4th of July weekend. You know, I don't know. All the days kind of just blended together. So lots happening going on. Let's see here. Big announcement today. It's kind of at work, and all of a sudden it was like, bam! And well, let's see if we can find it. There it is. All right, let's turn the party down. So, KTM officially announced today, or at least released the information, and registration opened up for the KTM Adventure Rally. So we are going to Idaho. So looking forward to seeing that. This is going to be my first year out, kind of checking it out. I know it's been on hold for a couple of years. It's a COVID thing and all. And so now we're back, and definitely I'm curious to see what it is. They talk about new formats and new stuff going on, so I'm definitely excited to hear more about it, find out more details. But for now, I know that the registration is in fact open. If I remember correctly, it is $375 for registered riders and $175, or $350 for registered riders, $175 if you just want basically the bivouac pass to get in, get the meals, that kind of stuff, and be in the event. So that's at least the information that I know thus far. I do see that in just tooling around the ADV rally, so the Adventure Rally and Camp Geico puts on. That's going to be in November 3rd through the 5th, so a lot going on there. We do have the Jacob Argybright Dakar fundraiser rally that's going to be happening on or in around that same time. So definitely going to get you guys some more details on that as they become available to me. I know that Gnarly Dave and Jacob Argybright have been out riding and putting the routes together and getting everything ready. I think they've already got half of the routes done and ready, so that's going to be coming up pretty fast. You know, November is not too far away. So let's see here. Where is the one for? I want to know about the KTM details, or the rally, KTM rally for. We got rally. See, this is a tease. So I'm on advpulse.com, right? I'm getting the news. I saw it break on there. So let's find that, what's going on. But then they have like teaser pictures of, you know, the KTM rally replica, the 450, you know, bikes that we can't get here. So, you know, kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. Let's see here. Why can't I find this stuff? Why is it always that I'm like under pressure? I'm like, okay, I got to find this stuff, and now I can't find it. Not the business. So KTM Adventure ADV Rally Idaho 2022. Let's see what we got here. All right, Rider Magazine Idaho. September 16th through the 18th. That is going to be. It is the KTM Adventure Rider Rally. going on. So I will drop a link in the description so you guys can grab that and get signed up for the event if you would like and feeling so inclined. I'll share some more details on it as I'm getting closer to figuring out and going and doing all of that. So definitely looking forward to that as well. Let me get this link over to our guest so he can. So that one there. Here we go. Let's send them on there. Put that here. And sent. All right. And now we go back to the chat. Okay. So let's see here. Okay. So KTM Adventure Rally. Got all sorts of stuff. I did see Travis from Every Single Sunday riding in some far off place on a 1290. That thing's an animal. They're saying it here, 160 horsepower, 1290 Super Adventure R. So very interesting. The horsepower race has begun. I think KTM's always kind of been the leader in that side of it, right? Putting out some adventure bikes with some gnarly horsepower as compared to like BMW and Yamaha and those other guys. Yamaha, no slouch. BMW may not put up the horsepower numbers that KTM does, but they do make a very linear bike. So I will give them that. The KTM does feel a little bit more race bred than say a BMW does, but a BMW is like that old trusty, that you want to have. So I'm actually looking forward to spending some time. I think I've rented out my 850 more this past year than I've actually ridden it, which I don't think is right, but I think it's time to get that thing some miles under my belt with that bike. And just getting out and riding. I talked about it in the last episode. It was just kind of nice to get out and ride and just, it demands such an amount of focus from you that it takes you away from all the other stress, all the other stuff that's going on. So if you guys aren't riding adventure bikes and you're sticking strictly with the skinny bikes, do it up, go out on those long rides, put that desert tank on there, see how far you can go within reason, right? We don't want people stranded. Or if you've been eyeballing it, adventure bikes right now, the middleweight class in adventure bikes is absolutely hot. It is fire because you've got the 700 from Yamaha, the Tenere 700, the KTM 890 now. You've got Aprilia joining the ranks. Then who's the other? Everybody's got everybody's taking a shot at it. The Ducati, that I love the Ducati for that old school look. I want a Ducati with a Lucky Strike setup on it. That is going to be my like dream bike to get, as far as adventure bikes go. But anyway, it sounds like, or more looks like, we have got Chris now on the line. Let's see. Chris, you there?
Hey, what's happening? Yeah, hey, what's happening? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
All right.
Very nice. Well, welcome to episode 75 of the Chasing Waypoints podcast.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. All right. So are you back and recuperated?
Yeah, I'm back and recuperated, and I think I'm trying to abuse myself more and more to get better at this thing called rally.
Ah, yes, this sport where one gets lost on purpose. So tell me how. What was your last event? Where you come from? Where are you coming back from?
Okay, well, so where are we coming back from? That's a good question. Actually, my whole journey ended up being about 5 weeks long, but that's because of other work and family things we did along the way. But essentially, what's relative to this discussion is the Baja Rally School down in San Quintin. I think was about a month ago now, 5 weeks ago, and I got to say that it was quite an experience. It was kind of eye opening in a lot of ways for me, anyway.
Nice. So, was this your first formal training in rally, or had you dabbled in before?
This was the first. Yeah, this was the first real rally experience. I'd done. I have a group of friends, and a couple of years ago, we kind of figured out about this whole road book thing, really. and started making road books. And just, it's a local, like we're in San Francisco Bay Area. So there's not a lot of off-road places where we can really go. But in the pursuit of trying to confuse your friends more and more and more, we tried to find the most obscure roads and back alleys and basically like what I would just affectionately call bum trails that, usually lead into some little wasteland under some railroad track somewhere and then pop out somewhere else. But there's a lot of free range camping going on in those places. And so, we started doing that, and kind of more and more, I think with more exposure on YouTube in general, I believe that it started becoming more of a reality that this roadbook rally thing, Rally Raid, was accessible, I guess, for an average person, if you will. And that was really kind of the light came on. But there's always like doing anything, there's always a big, reticent leap into the pool before you figure out you can actually swim or not, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At some point you got to jump in. It's just not going to happen any other way. So, okay. So this is interesting though, is that so when I think San Francisco, I'm thinking metropolitan, I'm thinking like, obviously dense population, that kind of stuff. So were you guys like doing road books just on the outskirts or through the city and through these? What was that like?
Well, so yeah, we're basically kind of like I'm down south of San Francisco a little bit, as well as a majority of the people that I tend to hang around with, and so we have some great areas on. In the hill, like the Santa Cruz Mountains and the hills and stuff between Half Moon Bay and Santa Cruz and a little further south, where you have these like, if you know where to look for them, there's these really awesome like country roads that go through everything from deep redwood forest canyons to kind of rolling green plains, and then you pop out and you're on the ocean, on the Pacific Ocean, and yeah, so that's the best. The best stuff is obviously away from traffic when you can really just ride and focus and stuff. But the downside of that is if you're on a small country road and you're coming to a turn at mile 25, it's probably pretty obvious that there's a turn at mile 25.
Okay.
And you're not going to be too if you miss it, you probably just weren't paying attention or something. It's not like when you run into five less visible tracks that all come together in the sand, and you got to pick the one that goes out at 2:00 or something like that, where it's a little more confusing. It's either right turn, left turn, or maybe some junction, but it's not very complicated. However, the whole process of doing that is we're all trying to kind of one up each other on the most obscure roads and finds that we could find. So that's kind of what the cool part is I've been riding here for decades, and I actually found roads and things not far from home that I had never discovered before, strangely enough, because you always tend to go on the same route that you took with your buddies last week or the week before or something.
Yeah. That is, it was interesting because I dropped a comment and I talked about that. I saw your comment on the 850 video, that I set it up with a manual roadbook holder and doing that adventure raid stuff. And that's exactly what it is what you guys are doing, going out. And it's, big roads. It's meant to be a very uncomplicated road book, but it's just the idea of just navigating by a road book, and we'll save the complicated stuff if you really, really want to go out on a skinny bike and get out into the desert. But otherwise, it's just the fun that you guys are having. How many people are in your group, would you say?
There's typically three of us that are kind of dedicated to that. And then there's always a fringe 4, 5, and 6. And then there's definitely, I've been kind of reaching out on some of the local motorcycle forums and things, trying to get more people involved. And really the hardest part is everybody, of our age has work and a family life and a significant other that has a honey-do list or something. And so I would, and kind of to your point, really is this, my approach to this was really to try to get people more involved in this idea of road books, I guess, and this was prior to knowing of the Chasing Waypoint podcast, and which was kind of strange listening to your podcast afterwards and then realizing like all these ideas I thought were my own actually weren't my own, that through the power of the universe it somehow like seeped into my head. But the whole concept of everybody goes out and rides, and we all enjoy riding, and we all live in these areas, and most people can't really go far. But if you can organize some road books and get some people together, they can rediscover their same place in a whole new way and learn kind of something really cool. I just think it's really cool. Like the whole navigation thing is kind of awesome. Yeah. And I'm not a stellar writer, but I'd like to think that I can at least navigate remotely well.
Well, and it's interesting, and I as my time as race director, and I've said it in multiple presentations or talks that have been, but it's at the end, I will take a navigator over somebody that can ride really, really fast, because in navigation, you could ride really fast off into the sunset in the wrong direction. And
right.
So there's that. It opens it up.
So I ride really, really slow. and just hope that I make the right turn at the right time that everybody else that was going really fast, missed or something, or at least that I'm not going to hold up everybody at the end of the day waiting for the last rider to come in. But now, so some of this going back a little further, going back to like my early 20s, I'm 50 years old now, so there's a whole other story there why I'm kind of getting into rally. But in my early 20s, I was a motorcycle courier, and I worked as a bike messenger and things before. But essentially, the job of a motorcycle courier is rally. Mm-hmm. And, we back then, a lot of it was just you had to carry a pocket full of nickels and use payphones, then pagers came along. But there was no GPS and no internet. And so you carried in the back of your, in your bag, you carried, some Thomas guides and some road maps and things. And your job was you get a address, and you got to go find this place and go meet somebody on the third floor of some building and pick up some document, throw it in your bag, and then you got to ride wherever it's going. And sometimes you end up with 4 or 5 or 6, deliveries in there that you got to kind of route yourself and things. And there's a whole. I was as a bicycle that was on the motorcycle too, but on the bicycle, I raced bicycles a lot as a kid and later on road racing. And then in the messenger world, there's these things called alley cat races, mm-hmm. which are the black flag races where everybody meets at a parking lot or a bar or something. And then somebody's created essentially what we call a manifest. It's not really a road book, but it's a series of addresses or things you have to go do. It's kind of like a scavenger hunt. Mm-hmm. And then everybody takes off and races. Well, that eventually evolved into a more organized fashion. There's actually a world championships for bike messengers. There's North American championships and world championships. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of the same thing where they've set up a course with a bunch of different points on it. And sometimes you have like 5 or 8 things and you got to figure out how to route yourself in the most efficient way around it. And at one point I was, for 1 year, I was the fastest North American bike courier. I finished 4th place at the World Championships, which was the only measure at the time. But But all of that thought process and things kind of like evolves into rally in that sense of following directions and hitting waypoints and kind of keeping your head together while you're under stress,
Yeah. Well, and then, it's figuring it out, having to route yourself, do all of that stuff, navigate, and physically exerting yourself at the same time. It is exactly like it to me. I mean, I'm listening to what you described. First of all, I had no idea there was even championships of this. I remember watching the movies, and in the movies you would see bike carriers and things like that, but I had no idea that even existed, championship wise, or like there was competitive events like that.
Oh no, and it's awesome in the sense of every 6 months or a year you would get together with these people, and it was always in a different city around the world. So you'd go to some amazing places, like we'd go to Barcelona one year, and everybody would show up and hang out for 2 or 3 weeks and just ride bikes around and go to bars and have a good time. And then there was a competition that was pretty highly contested, but yeah, there was quite a lot of fun. And then you develop this group of international friends. It would be like the same thing as rally, where you get this, as you do these events, you meet different people who live in different parts of the world, but every event these guys all show up, and so you get to spend like 2 weeks with these people, and that's the only time of the year you see them. And the camaraderie and the travel and stuff is I think a big part of it. Like racing in general inspires you to go to places you probably would never go to anyway.
There is very little difference between that and rally, it seems like, other than the fact that you got a pedal to move anywhere, and that maybe the distance is covered. But I mean, that I'm blown away. Like, I had no idea that even existed.
You can look it up. Cycle Messenger World Championships. It's I think in 1995. Something like that. Maybe even a little earlier, maybe a year earlier, but Germany was the first one. Mm-hmm. Then Toronto held one. There was one in San Francisco and New York. And yeah, so it changes. And that's what's amazing about it too. Like I say, you go to these places you just would never go to. And then you end up spending like 2 or 3 weeks there with a bunch of local people who show you all the greatest things,
Nice. Yeah, travel and see the world. So tell me about okay, so you went through the bike messenger phase, so the navigating, motorcycle messenger, doing that. When did the transition, when did the rally thing happen? When we were like, okay, I want to do some road book stuff.
Well, so I have this, so I have a model, actually I have a pretty large scale model, like a plastic, I don't know what the brand is, but it's of a, it's of the Gaston Rehers GS. Nice. From the 1985 Dakar, and it's never been assembled. Mm-hmm. I pull it out, I look at it, it's got rubber tires and stuff like that, and you gotta it's bolts for the heads and things. But I've had this model that I never built since I was, I think, 17 years old. Mm-hmm. And so kind of, with cycling comes a little sense of European sensibilities too for other sports and things. And of course, so Dakar Rally was always, of interest. And you kind of watch it from afar, and until internet and things, we really didn't have, much information on it. But fast forward, so I do a lot of bike racing, bike messengering, and then a motorcycle courier for quite a long time. And then I just started, kind of adventure touring. There was a bunch of things that kind of led to that. But there's, at some point, I just started traveling a lot on the bike. and just started with a duffel bag on the back and really roughing it, and on some CB 500 or something like that. No luggage, no bags, no windscreen, no nothing. You're hardcore, right? So I don't need any of that stuff. What? It's raining. I don't need rain gear. And you just, but then and eventually kind of progressed into longer things. And about 8 years ago, me and my significant other did on 2 bikes. We rode coast to coast. Nice. And we tried to back roads as much as we could, dirt roads, back roads, and just, camping and visiting family on the way and stuff like that. It took about, I think, 7 weeks, and I met a lot of other cool motorcycle dudes on the way who were also doing their own weird trips. And that's kind of, and then, so, now, like I turned 50 last year, and, I've been, with the exposure on the internet, there's more and more information on rally, and you get to see more stuff. Obviously Red Bull TV, they're going to show you all the highlights and things, but you get to see some pretty cool stuff. So then I'm kind of like, well, I'm 50. I got maybe, 6 or 8 good physical years where I could really kind of bust myself up and recover from it before it's too late. So if I'm going to do this stuff, then now's the time. And I actually had the time, like with work and stuff, that I had the time and I had some of the funds, and so that's really kind of what started gearing me towards the actual, like I said, jumping into the pool, as opposed to just, sitting on the sidelines and watching what's going on. Mm-hmm. But, I've been riding, like doing, just like I said, a lot of adventure touring, off-road riding, things like that on the bigger bikes. And so, and it's funny because listening to your podcast and my friends comment on all this all the time, where they go, you just keep going, you keep downsizing motorcycles. You go from the 1000 to the 690 to the 650 to the 500. Pretty soon I'm going to be down to riding a CT50 for rally or something like that.
I picture a TW200 with a handlebar road book setup.
Yeah, if I could pick it up with one hand, that would be awesome. It's like,
well, if we keep it up, we're all going to be riding the electric. What is that? The Stark Varg that's coming up.
Oh yeah, sure.
I don't know if you can pick it up though. I mean, that thing I'm imagining is still going to be pretty heavy.
Yeah, it's no that, but that's that. And I'll say that about the and I have to say I had a lot of help from a lot of great people during the Baja Rally School, because 2 factors. I had the 690, it's got, I didn't have it fully topped off, but it's got rally tanks and a rally tower and all the stuff that makes it heavier. And then there were sand dunes, which I have really no experience in. And so there was the first day or two or a couple days. I think I must have kind of lucked out and just kind of blipped my way through it somehow, and was like, oh yeah, that's not so bad. But then at some point I was just picking all the wrong lines and things, and I had to pick up that bike so many times, and I felt so bad for the abuse I was inflicting on it. It wears on you. And we were kind of fortunate that it was only about 70 some degrees, because if it had been, full blown Baja, Mexico in the heat, like that would have been a whole different story. Trying to pick up that bike in the sand constantly, it would, you just would overheat. So,
yeah, the first time, the second time, and the third time are usually the ones you're like, okay, I'm all right. Anything after that, it starts to get really wearing you down. You're starting to run, because you're also using the legs and everything else to continue to ride the thing as well. So.
Oh yeah, and I kind of knew this and just hadn't really accepted the fact. But even we were down at the Death Valley Rally before that, back in I think December or something, and my buddy was on a 990, and I was on the 690, and we were going over Mangle Pass, which is just a rocky Jeep trail kind of that goes past the Barker Ranch where the Mansons were, stuff like that. And all these guys on these 250s are just blipping, just bouncing off the rocks, just going right past us, no problem. Just try to manhandle this 400-pound machine over this stupid pass that's been all tore up by Jeeps and things, and
not the business.
Yeah, that wasn't fun till we got down the mountain, and then we were on the other side, and we could do 60, 70 on the deep gravel and stuff, and then it became fun. But but the technical stuff was pretty horrid. I did all right. And actually my buddy on the 990 for riding that bike did a great job, for what it was. But you just can't get over the fact that those things are way too heavy to be in certain places.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and it's like anything else. I feel like there's a speed that needs to be a minimum speed that needs to be achieved for the bike to feel light. And just like an airplane, I think it's the bigger the plane, the faster you got to be going, or it falls out of the sky. And I feel like that's the same with these bikes.
Yeah, it's funny because I you look at those old videos and you're like, how did like a Gaston Raher or Mioni or these guys, was Dakar easier? Not, I wouldn't say necessarily easier, but was it less technical riding back then, or was it, or has it, you're trying to figure out what's the difference, or I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, but it's pretty impressive to watch those. Some of those guys who are pretty small actually ride some of those pretty big bikes through the dunes and things, and just amazing riders. And I find I have about a 30-inch inseam. So I'm 5'10", pretty average build, and all the guys I see, just look like they're all 6 foot. They could just, when things get weird, they could just plant both feet down and stop what's going on. And I just kind of have to try to get my tiptoe down on some gravel with no traction and fall over onto that and pick myself up again.
Pick a soft landing.
Yeah.
And so going back, let's talking about the Baja Rally School and all that, it being kind of more the first formal training. What did you like about it? How did that go for you? How did you feel? Because I mean, I was on the other side of the table. I wasn't riding, but I was just kind of talking to everybody and doing that. But how was it for you?
It was super. It was super awesome. There was a couple things that were only my own failings or whatever, and I explained those, but I got the first thing I got to say about that experience is, number one, everybody, including yourself, and I actually wrote down a list of, I'm terrible with names, and so I have a hard time with names. I remember faces and things and details, but and I had a big list of names that I had written down, and I said it somewhere and misplaced it, but everybody was so super open and nice, and there was absolutely no ego and no, especially from the guys who had been there, been around for a while. The guys who had been involved in Baja Rally. It's very easy to become cynical and jaded, and there's the new guy or whatever. And nobody was like that. Everybody was so super helpful, and even still, even still, everybody I have contact with and stuff is like super open, and there's I just felt like the atmosphere. And I kind of had sensed this from reading forums and things and listening to your podcast and stuff about the North American rally group in general. And in fact, I had tried to find out last year about a couple rallies from Scotty that I think that the Catabina rally he was talking about doing, and then that didn't happen. But he'd referred me to some other things that were going on, and just very instantly it was that realization that, like, well, once you kind of got your foot in the door, and it's it kind of opens, everybody's open and kind of opens the world. So that's the first thing in my experience. Like, if anybody's afraid because of egos or anything like that, or personalities, or they're going to clash with people, don't even worry about any of that. Just you can just go out there and meet the guys and go ride around and stuff like that. It's like super amazing. And then as far as the formality, like the race format and things, I think what they did. Giving everybody road books ahead of time, and then just kind of going, all right, go out and check it out, and then doing the sort of ground school, if you will, in the evening, was probably very good, because the routes were all super close and close to the hotel, and if anybody got lost or something stupid happened, they're right there. I mean, you could throw a rock back at the start point, but. There was so much help there with the ARO guys, and Mike Johnson and Montana Mike and everybody that was out there helping people. That was really cool. Like, that was like it was really kind of neat to see these guys mentoring other dudes, that had no experience at it. That was pretty awesome too. So. I just and the whole thing, the whole organized portion of it for me was great. I thrive in those environments, and there's something about stage after stage after stage, and you just if you kind of get better and better and better at it. I guess if.
And so, I mean, and you're right. I mean, it's like anybody that you see in the Dakar, these guys are like reading road books and writing road books constantly. I mean, it's like literally all they do. So the more you go through them, the better. When you were headed to this, I mean, was there anything that you were maybe nervous about navigation wise? Like, was this one of the first times where you navigate basically open desert?
Yeah, it was, and that was actually super cool. So number one, I would say to kind of answer, I guess, the first question is, the only things I was really nervous about was my off-road riding skills, and my sort of lack thereof. Like I said, I've done a lot of fire roads and adventure touring and things like that, and but I didn't grow up doing motocross or anything like that. So I knew there was going to be some technical challenges that I would encounter. But as long as it's not really extreme, like, or not hard enduro or anything like that, I'm fine. I'll just throttle up over everything until I crash, and that's about it. Right? Oh, there it is. Yeah, I hit the power, go for it, and I bounce off a bunch of things. And if I make it, I'm like, ooh, yeah, that was good. And if I don't, then I just pick it up and keep going. But navigation-wise, we had this the night before. I was sitting with Tony Palladrini and Steve and Scotty was there, and Francesca, and we were kind of talking about stuff, and Scotty made a comment, and I said, well, the interesting thing is, like, of all the road books I've made with friends of mine, if I fly airplanes for a living. Like, I'm a charter pilot, and a lot of the people I ride with too are also pilots, and if I have a road book and I give it to somebody who's not a pilot, like, somebody who has a normal tech job or something else, like everybody else, and they've never done it before, it takes them some coaching, but it also takes them about halfway through a 60-mile, road book before they start kind of getting it. Mm-hmm. And then if you're just behind them following, you could see that, oh, look, the turn signal's coming on. and he's getting on the brakes. So there's his turn coming up, and the guy's now paying attention, and he understands how to read the road book, and he's anticipating, a couple steps ahead and things like that. But that takes a little while. With the pilots, it's almost instant, because that's the basics that in cross country navigation that we're taught. So it's a compass heading for a certain distance. And then you make a turn to another compass heading for a certain distance, and then the way we do it is that you might have a headwind or a tailwind that changes that up. It's kind of like if you're on a boat, it's the same thing. It's in sailing and boating. It's the same concept, but you just convert it to time, and you go, okay, 10 minutes, and then we should be over this waypoint. You look down and you go, oh, okay, yeah, cool. There's the water tower, and you make a turn somewhere else. So very, very similar in that sense. So Scotty goes, he's like, hey man, so okay. He goes, well, I want to test your theory. He's like, if you're on, so you're on heading 180, and you got to turn to 140. Is that right or left? I'm like, left. Goes, okay, yeah, back to 180. I was like, yeah, that's right. And he goes, oh, yeah, okay. So let's see. So which direction are you headed? I'm like, south. And he's like, okay, yeah. So you got to turn west. What heading are you on? I'm like 270. And I'm just, he's just asking questions. I'm just popping him off like that. And it's kind of funny because the other people at the table were like, oh yeah, I'm kind of lost already. But so. To your response of that. Now, the coolest thing about all that was that, all of the writing that I've really done is not in a place where you can just barrel across open terrain. Mm-hmm. Like everything's on some land or some trail or, motocross park or on a road or something, or there's just fences everywhere where you really, to get the opportunity to actually just go, oh, okay, jump off road and then cruise, for 2 kilometers across this open plain, is pretty cool stuff. Like, I don't, there's probably a lot of places in Nevada and Utah and other areas, Arizona and places like even Mojave and stuff where you can really get to do that. But for a majority of the writing I've done has always been hemmed in. And so that was actually some of the coolest parts. And you kind of like second guess yourself. You go, wait, is this right? Do I really just jump off this road and then go through this like barbed wire like gap and cut across this land over here? And it's like, yeah, okay. And so that was some of the coolest stuff. And to the point where later on when I was getting lost in things, I was getting somewhat creative. And getting, back to the waypoint, open one up and then kind of go, well, it's over there and it looks okay. I think I'll just cut across this field and see what happens, so.
Yeah, you kind of start figuring it out. And I still feel like, a lot of people that's maybe what they get. That might be one of the hesitations is that like, okay, well, what do I do if I get lost? And, I'm looking at this thing and I have no idea what I'm looking at. I feel like that's still a big entry barrier for a lot of people. And there's the cost, but then again, any hobby you pick that has 2 wheels is going to be expensive. So
yeah, well, and that's the game. It is how do you say it? Should just logically like working your way out of a paper bag. Essentially, like thinking your way out of a wet paper bag, like that's it, So if you do, yeah, you get there. I got lost for sure. There were times where I got lost, and there were times where I kind of just worked my way around, and then I got caught up on some fence line, and then I had to ride some fence line for 500 meters until I could find a gap in the fence line and things. And, and then eventually you pop out and you're like, oh, big, I'm here, or you see somebody else go by and you're like, oh yeah, okay, that dude. All right. Yeah. Cool. And that's kind of, but that's the game really. I think is like, and then just to keep on keeping on in that respect is like, okay, yeah, you had a challenge or you had a difficulty. You're not on a, marked track, like on an enduro. And so, yeah, you're going to have to think a little bit and then, like everybody says, just slow down and sometimes just stop and really, I think it was Mo, but Mike Johnson might have said it once or twice too, where he's like, dude, just look up. Like, just look up and look ahead of you. You have all the information you need. Oh, it's a left turn at the riverbed. You know, what else do you need? And you look out there, and sure enough, 300 meters away is a riverbed. Mm-hmm. Okay, go there and turn left, you know, or something like to that extent. There's definitely times where you kind of need to be looking at the road book and thinking about it. But then there's a lot of stuff where really, if you just look out up ahead or stop and turn your bike off and use your senses, mm-hmm. You know, like what I forget. There's an acronym for it, but the smell, look, listen, you know, kind of thing. With that, you know, I think Army Rangers, you know, use. I think maybe you know, Kyle McCoy probably knows what that's all about. Right. Yeah. but you know, there's this whole thing where sometimes you just stop and observe your surroundings and try to get your bearings and listen and see what you see, mm-hmm. and then pick your next direction. You know.
Yeah. I think, you know, and it's interesting because that, you know, it's that field knowledge, right? It's those things that you learn while you're out there that somebody tells you, hey, well, just, you know, look this or do that. You know, I think back to, I got lost on note number 3 on a road book out here in the high desert in Southern California. And we were still on city streets, you know, and I'm trying to be like very precise with like, okay, the Odo says this, and I know it's coming up, but I blew right by the corner, and literally it was at the light. It was like a turn on to like a side road, so there's really not an intersection, but it was there. I mean, it was, and you know, so like you said, and like they told you, is like, yeah, you know, it's just you've read the note, you know what it is, so go find it, you know, and yeah. And so I do think that is a very good, you know, that's a very good tip, and everybody. I think that for a lot of people, it's Rally might be like Microsoft Excel, if that makes sense. It's like you never run into somebody that has the same exact skill set you do in Excel.
Right.
Somebody always knows something a little bit different. They may know the basics.
Shortcut or something.
Yeah, here's 6,000 points. I'm going to turn it into a table in 10 seconds. Watch. And then it's like, what the hell? You know, so... It's different little tips and tricks and things that you learn along the way from all of these different racers. And that, you know, removing myself, taking a step back and watching what you guys were doing and seeing just what's kind of going on and what was going on. It was like really cool to see that, you know, like here's all this experience that's being mentored and coached live rather than in a classroom setting. Okay, guys, this is what it, you know, no, it's like everybody's at the start talking to each other. And, you know, I think that there was the transfer of information is, I mean, you could compare it to any school class that you go to. And I think that the way that it was organized really promoted that. And it sounds like that's kind of what you experienced.
Yeah. And you can't do that if you don't have people who are open and willing to invest in other people. Mm-hmm. You know, and as somebody who has, you know, I was a flight instructor for, you know, 4,000 hours of teaching people, and, mm-hmm. you know, so you can imagine like what that's, you know, like is, but you have to be, and even now, like mentoring, you know, first officers who are future captains and things. And that's what we're always saying, you know, the guy in the right seat is not the first officer. He's the future captain. Mm-hmm. And so as the captain is more than just flying the plane. Your job is, you know, you got to mentor these guys and take and put some investment in them. And, you know, and that's, and I think that's important. And that's what I really saw from, you know, the veterans of the Rally community. Mm-hmm. There were investing their time and energies, you know, into other people in an effort to grow the sport. I think that's really the end goal is what we're talking about. Is like let's grow the sport in North America. You know, what's those cats in England? that do all the heavy. Is it Rally Moto?
Yes, that do they do like their adventure raid type stuff where it's all on 1200s, 1250s.
Right. Why isn't there? This is kind of what before I even doing Baja Rally. This is kind of initially what I had set out to do, is to try to create a community like that, where everybody can make road books and share road books. We all get together and go ride each other's road books and things like that. But I think that's awesome. Like, it's kind of like what you posted the other day about doing adventure raid. I don't know why it's not a thing here. Honestly, there's so many dudes. So we live. I live literally on the same road that goes up into the hills here, and there's for anybody that knows the area, there's Woodside and Skyline Road. There's a restaurant up there called Alice's Restaurant, and it's not the Alice's Restaurant, but it's kind of like what goes on at Deal's Gap over on Tail of the Dragon, and it's this place, and there's all these great roads around there. And on any Saturday or Sunday, you'll go by there. There's like 50 or 60 motorcycles there.
Nice.
Everybody goes. That's where everybody goes, and they go and they go. Yeah, we're going to meet at Alice's, and they go up there and they all meet and have lunch, and then they go off and ride in different directions. And it's Harleys and sport bikes, but there's always like 10 dudes standing out there with GSs and things, and adventure bikes and stuff like that. And I know, given the opportunity, they would eat that stuff up, like they would, like that would be, like I think it's been said before. I'm not the first person to say it, but rally's kind of the extension or the next step out of adventure riding, in a sense, and you see that with Itchy Boots and I forget what the other the girl with the dreads that writes for the Adventure Rider website, Eagle, something like that. Yeah, and it's awesome. It's awesome to watch these people who are just adventure touring people. That's kind of a little bit what inspired me as well. Was watching, and I'm like, well, hey, if they could do that, if Itchy Boots can show up at a rally and go, yeah, I'm going to sign up for the adventure category of a rally and go do this rally. Like, why can't I do it, or any of these other people do it? And so yeah, I just that's but ultimately at the end of the day, maybe out of every 10 or 20 people that do a road book or two, maybe you'll get one that'll decide to go to make the expense and go down to Baja, or something, or I had a talk with the guy that's organizing the Yosemite, I think they're called Yosemite Family Tours, if that makes sense. And me and a buddy went up and did a 3-day weekend of their tours not that long ago, and it's all fire roads through near Yosemite. It's like pretty awesome, actually. And I kind of said to him, he's given away GPS stuff, and they'd given away the GPX tracks the week before after you pay your entry, and I just dropped it into Rally Navigator and made a road book out of it. Like it took me like an hour to whip out a road book out of it. And then, I just rode the whole courses with the road book. But we were at lunch, and I said to him, I was like, hey, why, are you aware of this or something? He goes, yeah, we always have like the enduro guys who are always asking us to provide, paper roll charts and stuff like that. And I was like, well, this is like such a super easy way to do that. You don't have to do paper roll charts, but if you can give them a PDF that they can jam in their phone instead of, instead of just GPX tracks, I think you open up a whole other class of event, I guess, if you will, or ride or something.
Yeah, that would get into and that would be interested in that. And I think there's a lot of people that are still like right on the fence, like, man, but there's no events or there's no nothing. And I think just even the ability to have that where more where they were more accessible.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have been, you know what, had that been a thing here locally, I had some connection with that I didn't have to travel for and didn't have to spend a lot of money for. I would have been all over that, like, decades ago, honestly. If there was just, some, like I said, some local dude that's just kind of doing something, and it sounds like it sounds like, I mean, with Rally Navigator, I think it is now becoming more and more, and the couple of apps that you have for roadbook readers and things like that is it's making it more and more accessible. Anybody with some basic Google Earth skills can sit down and draw up a route, and like I say, just email it to their friends and go for a ride. And I think that technology is making it not as much of a mystery, because in the past, I've never used Tulip, but I know there was a few different programs and things earlier on, but like, it's become so easy to generate that I can't figure out why there's not a little more traction on some of that. But then again, going back to the jobs and the wives and the kids and things, it's always hard to organize any group of people really herding cats.
Oh yeah, that's always the fun part, is the cat herding side of it. Trying to get everybody to a start line or to the start of an event, or organize.
Well, just agree on a day. Try to get 3 people to go, hey, Saturday we're going to meet up and do this. And it doesn't even have to be 6 hours away or in another country. That's it's hard enough in and of itself to try to get 3 random people together at the same time to go for a ride. Nevertheless,
Yeah, that's always the fun part. It's all right. Well, I can this Saturday, but but yeah, I can, but I got to be home before 10:30. Wait, we're meeting at 8. It's like we in the group rides, even just without even the road books. I remember that from doing group rides when I was at BMW. And there was always that core group of guys. The core group of guys, that they were down for it. They knew it was like, hey, you know what? I got the whole day set aside for this. And then there was the guys, well, my SO said I got to be home by, lunchtime.
Yeah. And that's, I'm that guy when I decide on something, or I'm Virgo, right? And the inherent thing with Virgos is, whatever we're doing, it's 110% at the expense of everything else. So, if I'm interested in one thing, I mean, and it's kind of funny, because Francesca will do that. Well, I'll go through this hibernation period for a couple of months sometimes, where it's like my brain hasn't really latched on to the thing, whatever that thing is, at that moment. But I'm just kind of and I've sort of learned this about myself, where I just kind of go, okay, cool, I'm just space out and watch TV or watch Netflix or something for a little while, not really focus on anything in particular. But then once that one thing kicks off, and it's always reoccurring. It's always been reoccurring themes throughout my life. But once that one thing kicks off, she'll just look at me one day and she'll go, oh, okay, we're doing that now. All right, cool. And she's along for the ride. So that was kind of like going to Baja Rally. She was kind of like, she was like, wait, we're doing what? I was like, yeah, we're going down to Baja. We're going to go do this rally. She's like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we're doing that now. All right, cool. Let's go. So
it's only another adventure.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, it's nice to have, and it goes back and forth, but it's nice to have somebody that's along for the adventure too. That I think that's huge. So if like she rides too, so she either will want to go along and go for the ride, or will realize that I'm going out to do some more extreme something with the dudes, and she won't be offended by that, and she'll just figure out her own thing to do that day or whatever it is. Like there's no oh, well, I really needed you to stay home and, mop the floor or something. So I'm pretty lucky that way, honestly, that I have somebody who's super easygoing about that stuff, and certainly makes it easier.
Yeah, that understands, that's like when they met you, you were like that way, and it's only natural for it to continue that way, So I mean, yeah, that you're right. That is very lucky, and that's awesome, And I think I caught her around the bivouac a couple of times. I don't think I actually met her, but yeah, I saw her floating around there with everybody.
Well, she's a pilot too, and for work, and we live on a boat, so we have this like everybody goes, wow, dude, that's like crazy, and you do what, but it's for us, it's just kind of normal, but I think for a lot of people it seems like an adventurous lifestyle, but given that first of all, to be able to live on a boat with somebody for any length of time, you have to have some kind of like understanding, with each other, or communication, or get along, because that's they're not huge spaces. You figure out how to work around each other very well. But then the flying stuff too, like she'll be gone 2-3 weeks at a time, and so in that time I can go out and do whatever I want, and then I got to go to work, and I'll be gone weeks at a time sometimes. And so when we get together, it's always, there's some like crazy adventure that's on, and it's usually motorcycles or something else that's going on. But so yeah, and that was our really, like I say, the Baja trip was coupled with a couple other things, but we were on the road in the van with the motorcycles for I think 5 weeks or something like that before we got back. So.
That sounds absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I mean, and that's the whole thing with, I mean, we talked about it earlier, and I mean, it sounded like for you it started way earlier with the Bike Messenger Championships and traveling to different parts of the world. Rally's the same thing. Now we're, traveling to different parts of the country, obviously international, down into Baja and stuff like that. So,
well, and the racing thing is a weird mindset too. I mean, in one sense, because if you've done any kind of, like, for bike racing, motorcycle racing, in one sense is kind of similar, in that you're really, to put it simply, you're just going to an organized event to ride around with a bunch of other people. You're going to pay a fee and pin a number on, and then you're going to ride around, and that's about it. And if you do well, you do well. If you're competitive, that's great. But for the most part, and particularly at my age, I don't have really aspirations on winning anything. So I'm really just going down to enjoy the whole event, like I said, and it's pretty much that simple. You're going to this event and you're paying a fee to put a number on, to do an organized ride of a certain sort, because I'm not that guy that's going to be competing for first, second, or third, and even if I was in those places, I still would just be like, yeah, whatever happens, and that's, so if you've done that kind of thing before, whether you're a runner or whatever it was, everybody played, well, not everybody, but a lot of people played sports in high school and things like that. It's not any different. You're just doing something different with a different piece of equipment. You might be able to get hurt a little more. But
yeah, there's the resiliency factor.
Yeah. But that's the, what the, so cycling, you have the same thing where, especially if you're doing stage races, the survivability and the longevity is more important than actually racing super hard all the time. And in road racing, that was always the mentality. Because if you have one crash, that could kind of end, you break a collarbone, that could end your whole season. So you were really kind of programmed to protect yourself, I guess, and that's how I feel about rally. If you're going to go do the 6-day Baja rally, you can't go out and, I mean, some guys can, I can't, but, go out on the first day and just like wide open throttle and try to pound over everything like a 1 day event. Because you're just going to end up smashing your bike up. You're going to smash yourself up. And, you're going to start the next day and the next day and the next day after that. So that, everything, and you read it in, what's his, Lawrence Hacking's book, he kind of talks about that a little bit too, how every day, if you kind of get behind the curve, like you have a mechanical or something and now you have to fix it, well, that's going to set you back an hour or two, and that's an hour or two of sleep you lose, and you have all this accumulation where after a certain point, you're way behind the power curve on everything. So yeah, I think it's really a as the French would call cycling, it's a chess game. It's a thinking man's game, not necessarily the fastest rider. And I think like ISDE stuff, 6-day racing, was also kind of the same thing. The French always considered it more of a strategy than a go fast event.
Yeah, and I think that's the big. I wish more people knew that, like with rally, that you see the elite and you see these guys that are at the top and the pace that they have to ride, but that is literally like the 1%, the 2%, we'll go with the 5% of total riders out there, because there's way more riders at the Dakar that are just there, because it's the Dakar. It's a bucket list item, and it's something that they're just there because of the experience. And at Baja Rally, that was one of the things I noticed. And there was a clear-cut line. There was those 4 or 5 guys that were there, and they were in kill mode the whole way. They wanted to know who was fastest. But the majority of the riders were people that were there, and they're riding with their buddies, and and they would wait for each other at the start. I'd see them on tracking. They're stopped at the first waypoint, all getting together, or I see them get to the coast where the course dumps out on the coast, and they're all hanging out there, and it's like,
right.
It's everything. And then they get back, and I was like, oh yeah, we stopped for a smoke break and pictures, and all this. I'm just like,
yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm at the bivouac wondering when everybody's coming home.
Well, the funny thing too, watching the presentation, like the Dakar presentation this year on the first day, was it was a little more, and maybe I just never paid attention before, but it was surprising to me the number of motorcycle riders that had gray hair. And you had the core 20 guys who were super fast, but then you had a bunch of like older dudes who were just out for the adventure, who had the means and the money and so the skill sets to just be able to go for it. And one of the things I think that was really kind of interesting and great as far as documentary goes, at least, was the Race to Dakar, the Charlie Borman show, the one that they did, and it was I thought it was really neat because they showed when he was still on the bike and he was racing, they were showing kind of a lot of the race and stuff, and then, but I think on day 3 or day 4 or whatever, he broke his wrist and dropped out. And so, even though like Cy Pavey was still in there doing his thing, and the other guy, they actually focused a lot more on the back end of the Dakar rally, and a little bit more of the organization and the privateers and the things that go on in the back half that you just never see. I mean, just the amount of aircraft and logistics and things just to have a rolling encampment like that is like impressive, but I find that stuff, the more you can see the insider view as opposed to the highlights, where just some guys doing a $110 across the desert, when you could actually see the dudes that are, the Italian guys, the rally POV guys, that was really great too. I have a vague understanding of Italian, but I didn't have to understand it to watch this and go, yeah, this is cool. These guys are, kind of normal dudes recording the ins and outs of this massive rally event. I thought was awesome.
Yeah, it's really, it definitely has stepped up, like I think more when it was in South America, but the amount of coverage and the things that you got to see from people on the side of the stage, with cell phones and or just content creation, I think was a little bit better when it was in South America. But you're right. I mean, it doesn't, just watching it, you understand the language of it and the vastness of it and how big of a challenge it actually is. So many days in a row, the terrain and just then the mental game of it. It's one thing to be physically in shape to be able to ride at 100, or even a 70 mile an hour average versus being able to ride at a 70 mile an hour average and navigate at the same time. I think there's a lot of people out there that will pick physically tired over mentally tired, hands down, every time.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, like I say, being in cycling and having followed the Tour de France and been kind of close to some big races that were also hosted by ASO, the organization that does Paris Dakar, is the same people, and they the more, and I've kind of heard Lyndon Poskett talk about it and other people, the more they clamp down on trying to prevent privateers and other riders and individuals from recording and broadcasting their experiences, the more difficult they make it for a guy to throw a GoPro on and record his experience. I think actually doesn't, I know it's a financial thing for them. They want to control all the media and the perception and, they're selling everything to the TV stations and this, that, but I think it actually kills them because, these, the media now is all about, podcasts and YouTube, and it's more out of the control of the major media organizations and more in control of the average user base. And with that comes, like, let's say, a guy like Lyndon Poskett, for example, or somebody else with a massive following, hey, how many hundreds of thousands of views and whatnot are they getting, like, that are people now interested in Dakar, and so by trying to snuff that out or make it so expensive and so challenging for a rider in a rally to be able to do a vlog and his own personal experience. It's and then all you end up with is video of Danny Sanders going 110 across the desert at the end of the day, which is awesome in itself, but I think they ought to just kind of open that up and let it roll, and I think they would see a lot more interest involved. I think for me anyway, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I feel like there is definitely more, like, there's some people that are there that want to see the highlights, that want to see the, like you said, the Daniel Sanders, sending it across the desert, and Skyler and Mason and all of these guys. And then there's a group that is really actually curious about the rest of the pack. What is this like? We get to see so much of the factory teams and the tents and the rigs and they have their cell phones and their social media posts that they can do and stuff like that. But what is it like for the other 3/4 of the event? The other competitors, and what's I don't want to say the real life story, but the real life story of those competitors, and how do we see more of that? Because while, yeah, we want to see that, we want to see how the factory guys are doing, and we want to get into that competitiveness of it and what they're doing. But we also, for us, mere mortals, we want to see the other stuff too. So I agree with you. I feel like if they change that up a little bit and we're able to produce more, I think that would maybe help drive more people. And I mean, I don't think they're hurting for customers either,
No.
but that could help. I think that's especially big. Like when we're talking like, doing adventure raid type stuff, yeah, this is you're going to hit 2 fire roads on this, or this is going to be a road stage today. You're not even going to see a fire road today. And varying it up for people and just getting them out to navigate, and then they say, oh, okay, well, this is what they go through. Sit down. Here's a training. This is like what if you were at a rally raid event, that you would have the beginner class before the event that just kind of tunes you up on navigation and the things to look out for. And I think that living that experience for a lot of people is really important, but there's not a lot of that out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and people do, most people do want to be a part of something, like that, like whether it's an event or an organization or, people, we're social creatures by nature anyway. So if we could take, something that we love, doing, that we enjoy, and then also turn it into something that's kind of challenging and intriguing and and then involves a lot of other people, so we can all high five each other, or it's like that's the best part is when you get back and you're like, oh man, yeah, did you go through that one section? Oh, I totally screwed that up. I missed that turn, and then it took me like 45 minutes to figure it out, and then I hit that one ditch and I got a flat, and or whatever. Like that's what it's always like the thing in adventure riding, right? Like as soon as when the bike breaks down, everybody goes, oh, that's when the adventure begins, and because that's the story you're going to tell. You're not going to tell the story of like, riding 100 miles like in monotony, across the Nevada desert on Highway 50 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Droning miles on the bike.
Yeah, you're going to talk about the stuff that happened, that and you're going to embellish and explain it in such a way that it has a little cliffhanger and all that stuff. But that's the fun of it, and that's why you go do it, because it's the unknown, But yeah, if you can't share that with people, that's and if you could share that with people who are doing the same thing, I mean, I think that's what the camaraderie is all about anyway.
Yeah. I for sure agree on that one. Nice. Well, yeah, I've got some dogs that are trying to that are barking at me. I think it's dinner time for them.
Okie dokie.
But we got to do that. But so in closing, what's next for you? What are you 6 days?
Well, so I got I have a friend who was really super bummed he couldn't make it to the rally school down there, but we both went and bought skinny bikes, and with a little help from some people, we've been getting them outfitted, doing all the work ourselves, but been setting them up for rally. The plan is to do Kota, and I think in the next week or so here, as the paychecks middle of the month paychecks come in, we'll send out the fees, and we've been kind of working on the process of there's a lot of regulation kind of stuff involved in that one, so we've been eyeballing all that and trying to figure out how to get through that bureaucracy stuff. But yeah, that's the plan, is to do Kota, and then the Baja 6 day I've already sent in my deposits on, and ideally Catavina in May, and San Quintin in December or something like that. So it's pretty much fully on, and actually I'm really trying to maybe get a couple other people involved in with a couple of the other local guys around here, and see if we can't sort of create I don't want to say full-on rally team, because that sounds too aggressive or too serious, but definitely some kind of co-op where we can all kind of share parts and help each other out with getting to these places and expenses and things or whatever we got to do, but being there, getting your foot in the door, going down there and meeting everybody. And now, I've made a lot of contacts, and I think it'd be super awesome to be able to work with some of these guys in my area and help each other out, basically.
Nice. Yeah. And I completely agree. I mean, I think that's the right approach, and looking at it like, okay, well, if we all go down as a group, as a team, it does make things easier. It's whether it's sharing the driving or working on the bikes, somebody's doing oil, somebody's doing filters, it just works out easier for everybody. And yeah, like you said, I mean, it ends up working out that way anyway. When you go to the bivouac and you look, you're going to see Dave Pearson with, the Pearsons with Mike Johnson and Mo Hart. They're all going to be in an area, or Montana Mike. You just kind of get these groups, but they're not silos either. They talk, and everybody kind of you walk there and you'll randomly see somebody.
No, I was lucky enough. I don't know how it happened. I think I was like the first person really to get to the hotel that day, but I was lucky enough to be sandwiched between those two camps, those two parties. And so I got that was for me. I felt really lucky to be in the center of this wealth of knowledge and able to really meet these people and hang out with them, day in, day out, and even just, sitting there, like, talking trash about whatever, was, that was, it was super awesome. And Slade was like so funny, man. That dude, he and I were like cracking up on the third day, like just watching people and these conversations going on. We're having such a good time. So I just felt really lucky to like hang out and meet, like all these great people, man. It was super awesome. And so, so now I'm just spending all my money on rally stuff, and that's about it.
Full send.
I'm burning up credit cards and things like that to make it happen.
Just make sure you're using the one with the biggest cash back.
that's right. Yeah. So
nice.
Fortunately, I got a lot of Marriott points and Hilton points from work, so
there we go.
got a little bit of relief.
Yeah, kind of cash them in. Have you raced or ridden down in the Catavenia area before?
No, we went, so after the rally, after the school was done, we went, Francesca and I loaded up, we brought all our bags and stuff. And so we loaded up the camping gear and all that, and went and rode around for the next 3 or 4 days in Baja, went all the way to Baja, Los Angeles, and camped out over there on the Sea of Cortez and stuff. So didn't do a lot of off-roading on that, but definitely got a feel for what the terrain is about in there, and the differences obviously between Pacific and Cortez sides,
Oh yeah, for sure. So on the way down, you would have passed the hotel Mission Catavenia.
Yeah. I stopped at that little store and got across the street and got some drinks and bought some gas from the guy with the truck and the gas can.
Yeah, nice. Expensive gas, but much needed in that area. We're still waiting for the gas station to open that's across from the hotel there. But
yeah, there seems to be a lot of that in Baja.
Yeah.
a lot of rebar and concrete hanging out.
When I was at BMW, people would tell me, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go ride the Baja Peninsula. I'm like, okay, let me tell you something. When you get into the Never Never, which is right after El Rosario, Mama Espinosa's, you're gonna eat there, and then you go to Baja Cactus, or the gas station that's right there, and you fill that thing up to the brim. And if you're comfortable with carrying a mouthful, do it, because it is a long shot to the next gas station. And if you plan on riding any kind of offshoots, that only kills it. I mean, Baja Rally, the last time I did, I rode my 790, basically the whole event. I chased it on my 790, and on the way back, I got back to El Rosario on fumes. I mean, literally the smell of gas that was impregnated in the plastic, I think, is what got me there.
Oh yeah,
and
sure.
So, that's the word of warning to the people traveling down there. But racing down there and the sunsets and that area of Baja is one of my favorite. The only other one that I could think of would be like into the Loreto area, Colton Udall was one that said that's his area, that he loves riding. But for me, it's that Catavina area where you guys were at and stopped at that store. That the sunset's there. I mean, everything. It's just the food's good, the hotel's cool. It's just, and there's no cell service, and they sell the internet. If you want.
Right. we went down to just outside of Catavina to the east, right, southeast, and a little bit further past it, going east. And there's that kind of truck stop. There's like one place that says camping, and it's not. I don't know. I'd call it a truck stop, but there's no gas or anything. But we actually stopped in there and got food, and it was the kind of the coolest experience, because you go in there and it's just. Like a grandmother, a mother, and a daughter, sitting in this place, and it kind of looks like nothing's going on. And they're like, "Oh yeah, what do you want?" We ordered a bunch of food, and then they just, home cooked it up right there for us. It's probably some of the most delicious, Mexican food you can get, and you never would, most people in a car or something probably just never would even stop there. They just drive on past and wonder what that place was all about. But, it kind of had that, I want to say the compound in, was it Terminator 2? where they go down to Mexico. And it had that whole, burned up VW bugs and things, compound kind of
that vibe going to it.
Yeah. But it was super awesome, and the ladies were like so super nice and welcoming and stuff, and you just can't beat those experiences either.
Nope. And that's something that the memory lives on, and it's one of those things that you could go there 100 more times, but there's always that first time that you remember, and now like, hey, what, the food is actually pretty good here, and you remember that spot, but it's always that memory of the first time that you were there, and like you said, you never know unless you stop.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly. You don't know until you stop there and talk to people. Yeah. But everybody's so super nice. It's I'd say that with the media and everything we hear on the news, if anybody is, and I get asked this question, we fly to Cabo a lot, and La Paz and a lot of other places, but I always get asked that question. Oh, going to Mexico, are you scared? Do you feel dangerous? I hear the cartels are cutting people's head off and put them on turtles, and and I got it's not like that at all. I mean, if you're doing nefarious things, you're going to probably get involved in some of that, but for the most part, the people are so welcoming and so super nice that. And it's so open, and there's a great place I found going down to Cabo a lot. It's called Baja Rides, and I'm trying to think of the guy's name that runs it. But in Cabo, there's a little outfit there by the airport that has a bunch of CRF 450s and sandrails and buggies and things, and these Mexican guys that have been doing like Baja 1000, Baja 500, but they have a great little operation down there, and they have all the gear and everything. You could, if you're going to Cabo, you can fly in and just pay them like I can't remember what it was, like $250 or $300 for a day's ride, and they'll take you out. And they're fast. Like if you want to go fast, they'll go fast. And so that was a really great find. And so now when I have to go down there for work, and we're there for 2 or 3 days, typically I'll try to get a good ride in with those guys. But yeah, I think it's BajaRides.com or something, and just totally worth checking out if you just want to go down there and see what riding in Baja's like. There's a super easy way to do it, so it's like, just you don't have to bring anything. They got boots, helmets, all the stuff. So, but we were me and my buddy were pretty impressed at the pace that they were carrying when they were like, oh yeah, you guys ride, okay, yeah, well cool, let's go for a ride. And it wasn't just a bunch of I mean, I'm sure they do families that just cruise up and down the beach real slow, like the ATV tours and stuff like that. But no, these guys will take you for a cool trip and some single track and things like that. So it's pretty awesome setup they got.
Nice.
Fabrizio, that was his name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, and that's always good, and especially with somebody that knows the terrain and knows the area and where you're at and all that stuff. You're going to have more fun,
Yeah, I think they're doing like 3, 4, 5 day tours or whatever with Canadians and things that guys get a group of dudes from Canada come down there and stuff, and they obviously they got hookups with all the little restaurants and things around, so it's basically kind of what you do is you go, ride from one restaurant to another stop somewhere, kind of by the beach or whatever it is. But yeah, it's certainly, it wasn't very expensive, and it's certainly nice just to follow and not have to navigate sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Just be led around and, you get to relax and take in the sights a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, very nice. Okay. One last before we go. There was somebody that we were supposed to say hello to or what's up or a shout out to on the show. I think my girlfriend asked the name, and I'm trying to remember what I did with the sticker because she wrote it down for me. And
that was Doug. Yeah, that's my buddy Doug. You don't know him. When we were there, I said, yeah, you don't know him, but he says hi. He listens to your podcast and he says
nice.
Hi. He'll actually be at the 6 day down there in Kota and stuff like that too. Nice. So, but wow. That's at Dougopolis on Instagram. So
nice. Well, it sounds like we'll meet him at the 6 day rally.
There you go. Yeah, and I did give him the sticker. So
nice, awesome. I appreciate that. So, nice. Well, awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time and talking. And I mean, obviously we're going to be seeing you at the events, and then we'll chat offline because I'm really interested in this adventure raid stuff. And secretly, while we've been talking, I looked up where that restaurant was and more or less where you're at. And years back, I had looked at that because I was thinking like it'd be cool to do a trip up Highway 1, but I want to explore some of these other roads off of Highway 1 on the adventure bikes. And I'm just looking at the sat view and all these lines crossing through. I'm like, there's actually a lot of roads up there.
Yeah. If you come up this way for something, for whatever it's worth, I got extra bikes and stuff. You're welcome to borrow some if you happen to fly in for any reason. Yeah. But if you want some road books too, and I can send you those. It's a beautiful area to ride in, and after being in 100 degrees in the desert areas and down south, like I love going down south because it's always the way I always say it is the air is always warm and soft, know. But then you come back up here and it's like it's always 76 or something. So it's always this kind of perfect. I got a motorcycle riding, got to put on my jacket temperature for the most part. So the more I go to extremely hot places, the more I appreciate the weather here, and just how kind of consistent and mellow it is year after year. But yeah, definitely nice. come on up and we'll do some riding for sure.
Absolutely, and bring the 790 up in the trailer and hang out. Nice
trailer.
Oh yeah,
that's not that bad. Come on, what was that? 5 hours or something? It's not that bad.
I figure. See, I'm more comfortable driving in cruise control at night, and then suffering on the bike, and then get there and still be in shape to ride.
Yeah, I bought my 690 I bought my 690 out of Corona.
Nice.
And I rode it home like I left there at like 3 p.m, and I rode it just all the way. I got home at midnight or something like that. So
All right.
yeah, like, well, and it was the stock seat, so my butt definitely was telling me things. But
I'm not sure on that. I know on the I know on the 500s it's like a 2x4. I'm imagining the 690 is more like a 2x6.
Well, that's the the classic KTM, like they don't want you sitting down kind of thing on that bike. But so that it was definitely a stretch, but
nice. Well, nice. Well, all right. Well, cool. So we'll be in touch, and I definitely want to try and get up there riding. And if I don't see you before, we'll see you down at the 6-day rally.
Cool, man. Yeah, thanks for everything. I appreciate what you do, and appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. We'll talk to you soon. See ya.
Take care.
Yeah, you too. Bye. All right. So there you have it. That was Chris Tavenner. We met at the Baja Rally, San Quintin Training School, and talking a little bit down there. And then I said, hey, let's share your experience and what you've done thus far. And so there you have it. I am very interested in what he's riding up there in that neck of woods, as versus down here doing some of this adventure raid stuff. Like it's right now sitting here in Adventure Taco Studios with the dogs barking in the background, which I'm waving at them like, yes, I know, I'm coming, is basically, I'm just sitting here thinking, I'm like, okay, I need to go out, GPS this thing, get it finalized, get this route done, and just get on this and do this adventure raid stuff. We're in the summer months, it's going to get warmer, but you can still ride, the 1200s, the 850s, the Africa Twins, the 790, the 890. Hell, if you want to do it on a street bike and it's a road stage where it's primarily going to be highway, okay, you could do that too. And so there's a lot of options to this, but it begins with something very basic, right? Not complicated road books, not a bunch of HP navigation where it's like, okay, stay on cap 130 for the next 26 kilometers, where basically you're just staring at this mountain range the whole way, trying to make sure you don't deviate too far. There's so much to it. That can be done in a road book, and it can make it very, very complicated. But doing something basic and fun and easy, that's really what gets people into rally. And that's really what, you heard him say, being in the bivouac and talking to anybody, no egos, no attitude. Everybody's just there to help each other and having a great time and listening to these conversations and talking smack and, gassing each other over things. It's all of that experience. So I hope everybody that's listening to the show is at least a little bit more curious, and we can get this thing going, and we can get more people into the rally raid sport. I mean, that at the end of the day is really what this whole thing is about, and doing some adventure rides and getting some calories on the way there, So, but anyway, that's enough for this episode. An hour and 37 minutes. I thought it was going to be 35 minutes to 45 minutes because that's always the goal, because that's about the average commute time in the United States. But you know what? It doesn't matter. It's all about having a conversation, meeting people, talking to new people, and just getting through it. So with that being said, guys, I hope everybody had a great holiday weekend. If you're here stateside, I hope everybody had a great weekend wherever you're at in the world, wherever you're tuning in from. 18,100 total plays so far on the podcast across the 74 episodes. You guys will be hearing this on Sunday, but I am absolutely stoked about that. When I started this way back, actually this coming October is going to be 2 years that the podcast has been running for. I had no idea we would be where we're at, and I'm absolutely loving it. And I greatly appreciate everybody that supported the channel, that's talked about, that shared the episodes, that's been on the show, that's done all of this stuff. I absolutely love it. I thank you guys. And I'm looking for more, and we're coming for more. We got more events coming. We've got more things going on. So I'm really looking forward to spending a little bit more time out at the events and hanging out with you guys. But anyway, with that being said, don't forget, shiny side up. All right, that is the wrap for the Chasing Waypoints podcast this week. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you heard. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and a bunch of others. Also, follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook under Chasing Waypoints, Instagram Chasing Waypoints _official, and of course, the YouTube under Chasing Waypoints. Hope everybody has a good week. We will see you guys for the next episode. Remember, shiny side up, and don't forget to tag us. We want to see where you guys are riding and what you guys are up to. Have a great week.